All right, boys, it's adventure time. And you know what that means? It is time for you to figure out if you need to summon on the most recent banners that are coming out to the game starting tomorrow. So if you guys are interested, of course, in summoning, watch the rest of this video. So all right, so for the bulk of this video, we're going to be going over if you should summon on the banner or not for constellations. But for each of the units, Bennett is an exceptional unit, one of the best 4-star characters in the entire game. So yes, he's worth summoning for. Sucrose is one of the best reactors in the game. So yes, of course, she is worth summoning for. And Fischl is one of the best 4-star characters in the game as well. And of course, she's worth summoning for. But beyond that, let's go and talk about the constellations of the characters, because the constellation for these characters can give you some pause on how hard you want to go for the banner specifically. For Albedo, of course, I have my own thoughts and opinions about him, but basically, he's cool, high DPS, Geo character, potentially he's going to be really good. We'll see. The first constellation we're going to go over today, which is going to be one of the most overhyped constellations in the entire game, which is going to be Constellation 1 Bennett. Constellation 1 Bennett, I'm going to read this for you guys because a lot of people miss this and they don't actually hear it. Fantasti's Voyage's attack increase no longer has an HP restriction. There's a second part to this. We'll get to it in a second. Now, because it no longer has an HP restriction, everyone says, oh, that's amazing. Now I get my attack buff 100% of the time. That's a really big change. And that's actually not very true. If I'm going to be out in the open world or whatever, and I'm just taking damage, and I constantly get lower and lower and lower and lower, I eventually get to a below 70% HP, and then people think that is going to be the best time to use the Bennett Ultimate, because then you need to heal. But look how fast you heal with Bennett Ultimate. It takes a total of 2 seconds, and I'm back at full. And even while taking constant damage while I'm in here, there's very little time where I am below that, where I'm actually able to attack, even while taking constant overloads, etc. Now, for Bennett's Constellation 1, this is not super valuable. The reason I know that's not valuable, even if you go for a full support build on your Bennett, you're going to get a way bigger heal, which means that you're going to spend way less time below that 70% threshold. 90% of the time, you're going to be above that threshold, because you're going to be, if you are taking damage, a lot of the time the damage staggers you, and you're not able to attack during that time frame anyways. So it is a very overhyped constellation for that reason. Now, another part of this constellation is going to be you also gain an additional 20% of Bennett's base attack. So, if you wanted to know what that comes out to be, if you're using a 4-star weapon, which many people are going to be using, let's say even at level 90, a level 90 4-star weapon like the Sacrificial Sword comes out to about 454 attack, and at maximum it's going to be 500 total attack. An extra 20% of this attack is for your total amount of base attack is going to be a grand total of 123 attack. Now, the extra attack that you're adding on to whoever's damage you're getting is an extra 123 that you're giving to someone else. Now, that may seem like a lot of attack that you're giving to somebody, but the amount of attack increase, if you're looking at another character, is not that much. If you go to any character that you have in your team, say level 80 or level 90, a lot of your characters are going to be around 2,000 to 2,500 attack, depending on what you have between level 80 and level 90. Some might be below 2,000 attack, but we'll get to those in a second. Now, the reason that seems kind of insignificant is the way that his talents work. So if we go into Bennett's talent right here is going to give him 90% bonus attack, or everyone in your team 90% bonus attack when they are in the actual field of whatever his base. So that comes out to be about 556 attack and about 123 for the constellation. Now, if a character actually had 1,500 actual attack, the total amount of attack increase that they would get from the original attack is going to be, the difference in attack is going to be 2,056 attack on a C0 Bennett versus 2,179 for a Constellation 1 Bennett in this situation. This comes out to be a whopping total of 5.9% more damage. So the amount of damage that you're going to get overall increase is whatever when a C1 Bennett comes out into play, is even at low attack values like at 1,500 attack, you're really only getting about 5 to 6% more damage. And as your attack value increases, you're really not seeing the bigger gains from that attack value. So overall, that's not going to be the best possible way to go if you're looking to boost your damage. Constellation 1 does help, and it does provide more damage, but the amount of damage it increases is actually pretty darn small. Constellation 2 for Bennett is pretty interesting, where it's just going to increase your energy recharge rate below 70% HP by 30%, which is kind of nice because if you're ever below that threshold, it does help out. If you're like in the healing field and you get knocked out of the healing field and you're looking to get your energy recharge back a little bit, this does help out a lot when, of course, getting extra energy particles. Constellation 3, of course, is big damage, but Constellation 4 is going to give you the Shoryuken style ability where you're able to go up, hit the E, and then hit a left click and come back down. That left click allows you to go up and down to get that extra hit. The extra hit that you're going to deal is going to be a total of 135% damage and actually cannot be increased by talent levels. But if you just do have a normal one, that is how a normal level 1 charge works. For Constellation 5, and of course, more big PV damage when you're going to get the increase on the ultimate damage. And finally, the last constellation, which is the most controversial constellation, which is going to improve your overall pyro damage by increase the overall radius and gain 15% pyro damage bonus. However, all normal and charge attacks now will actually switch to being pyro damage. Now, this can be a both positive and negative mechanic because of how Bennett works with other characters. One of the most common strategies to use with Bennett, of course, is going to be with Chungyang. Chungyang is, of course, going to drop an E cryo field that's going to, of course, give you the cryo mechanic. And you see it on the sword. The entire sword is now frost. And, of course, if used for Bennett, his sword will now create ice attacks or frost attacks, which will then allow you to then use an E following that to give you a melt reaction. So if you were then going to go onto an enemy, you can go ahead and use this. Boom. Come back out. You have to throw an E ability. Then just do your normal attacks to come back out. And then, of course, drop another melt. Now this allows you to consistently pop out more and more melts every time you want to, and if you do want to use an ultimate ability in between, you of course can get that to give yourself even more damage. Now of course you do pop an ultimate ability at this point though, now you will not have the cryo field up as much, but what's really nice is that what I've noticed between putting up an elemental what I've noticed about putting up an elemental weapon is that if you do change the element of the weapon, whatever element comes first is actually going to be the charge of the weapon. So I've done this with Keqing, and actually I'll show you that right now. If you don't know about Keqing, she, of course, every time you use a double E is going to change her ability to actually give herself an electro weapon. You can see it kind of signified by the weapon that she has on right now, looking kind of an electro weapon. So while using two different elemental charge weapons, you can actually change the way that this works. So first, what I'm going to go in here is actually go in and use Chungyang's ability to create cryo weapons, and then I'm going to switch over to Keqing and hit a double E. Now by doing that, I still have a cryo weapon because the cryo weapon was the first elemental enhancement to actually pop on my weapon, and I do not get my Keqing E. But the second that ends, of course, I can then switch over to Keqing and then get the electro charge weapon. Considering summoning for Bennett for Constellation 6, you can still do really well with a Chungyang and Bennett strategy by, of course, using a Chungyang first and then having the cryo field out first before using Bennett's ultimate, and then starting up to keep a cryo particle weapon on your overall normal attacks, as well as then switching over to an E following that. Next character on the list, of course, we got is Sucrose. And Sucrose, for Constellations, is one of those characters that a lot of people say that needs Constellations. For Bennett, I didn't really feel like he needed Constellations to be good. I've actually beaten all of Spiral Abyss with a C0 Bennett and a C4 Bennett, so both of which are totally fine to beat Spiral Abyss, totally fine. But for Sucrose, I did feel like when I was playing her, and the more I play her, that C1 is a very, very valuable tool. When I actually use Sucrose and do swirl reactions, the C1 is a very, very nice thing to have in my kit in order to just get 2 E abilities right away and then switch off Sucrose. C2 doesn't really feel like it helps like that much because it increases the duration of your ultimate by 2 seconds, which is kind of cool for extra pulsates. C3, of course, extra damage. C4 just giving you that extra little C4 is worthless, actually, to be honest. Unless you're main DPSing Sucrose, C4 is like absolutely worthless. And then C5 increased damage, and following that, C6 is kind of nice. Now C6, of course, is going to be if this creates an elemental absorption, it's for all party members given an elemental damage bonus for the corresponding element during its duration. So if you then, of course, pop a Sucrose E, you're actually going to get elemental damage bonus on whatever element is absorbed by that. So if I go over to my Klee right here, my Klee is going to be currently at 90% pyro damage. I'm going to make sure not to use any of the witch stacks to make sure that happens. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and use the Q. And of course, if I look over here, it's absorbed the fire particle. And if I go over to my Klee is now going to have a total of 110 extra pyro damage, giving that extra 20% bump while the solar isotoma is up. So if I wanted to get extra, oh, she did. She hella did. Now she has 0%. So the extra constellation, of course, providing that extra little bit of damage is really nice for, of course, getting you a very big surge in damage for whatever team composition you'll be using for Sucrose, and of course does help you out. As far as needed constellation, the only one I think is needed, of course, is Constellation 1 to give you that extra E, give you that extra ability to get more damage in, and of course this pairs very well if you're using a sacrificial fragments. Finally, of course, we got Fischl. Fischl, of course, is going to be a really good main DPS with Constellation 1 Fischl, and then all the following constellations, of course, just increase the damage of your actual E when you drop the E, when you actually use your ultimate ability, and final constellation for Constellation 6 is the Big Whopper. Now, C2 and C4, not super necessary. Really, the big constellations for her that are kind of game-changing, of course, are Constellation 1 and Constellation 6. So while using all these characters in tandem, to, of course, get some big damage coming in here and getting large amounts of fun, lots of good times. And of course, if you do want to get lots of fun in with just 4-star characters, these 4-star characters that we're talking about here are incredible and can do some crazy mad lad damage. With C6 here, as you can see, getting extra hits every time we hit with an auto attack against a bird. Very, very nice. And of course, you can increase that damage by, of course, applying super conduct to enemies and getting lots of damage against them. So I definitely recommend getting if you want to use a good 4-star team, all of these 4-star characters are extremely good. While Xiangyang is on the most recent banner for the game. So if you did want to get Xiangyang, of course, he is out right now for the Zhongli banner for the next 20 hours on US, but of course it's gone on Asia, etc. So make sure I hope that you picked up Xiangyang. And if you are looking to get Fischl, of course, she is extremely good at C1 and C6, but none of the constellations are actually needed for a support build. If you're looking for a support build Fischl, really you don't get anything out of any of the constellations besides C6. So if you're really looking to get a big support damage build for Fischl, it needs to be at C6 Fischl or C0 Fischl. Anything in between doesn't really matter for your support Fischl build if you're using her for that specifically. Weapons for all 3 characters. My recommendation for Bennett is going to actually be the Iron Sting, unless you are considering getting the new weapon, which is going to be the elemental damage weapon that's going to be coming out of Dragonspine. This weapon is going to be exceptionally good for Bennett, so if you are looking to use Bennett as a main DPS or a character in general, the new weapon that's going to be coming in Dragonspine, which I can't remember the name, but whatever that is, the purple one, that one is going to be a very, very good weapon for Bennett, so definitely look out for that. For Sucrose, the sacrificial fragments, which is on the banner, is going to be exceptional for her. And finally, for Fischl, if you're using her as a support DPS, the stringless is a great way to go, of course, for boosting your support damage. Now, all of these weapons, of course, are on the most recent weapon banner coming out, so make sure if you are summoning for the weapon banner, these are the things you're looking at for your 4-star characters. Now, between the 2 banners, looking at them, the only reason to summon on the Albedo banner, of course, is going to be for Bennett, in my opinion. Albedo is a very, very cool character, very fun, but, you know, of course, I'm not really the biggest fan of him in the world. And one of the big things and the big controversies that are coming out that could be potentially happening is, of course, they have released a Geo buff in 1.3, potentially just so that people will summon on the Albedo banner, so that people can see that there is a hope at the end of the line for Geo characters. Another thing that actually got dropped in, of course, if you did not catch it, of course, is the floor 12 of the next Spiral Abyss is going to have a Geo damage increase. So if you're thinking that this potentially could be a very, very big reason that they wanted you to pull for Albedo, this is a very big reason that they have decided to do so, and they're dropping floor 12 increased on Geo damage. So Ningguang teams, we have Zhongli, and of course, finally, Albedo are going to be 3 different characters that have been on the last 3 banners that you could have summoned for, of course, to get your increased Geo damage. Alright guys, my name is Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, it was helpful for you or anything like that, please of course like the video, of course drop a comment in the comment section down below. And you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.